without further ado, what are your thoughts on everything that happened on the days leading up to Wednesday? Of course, Wednesday, and then where do we go from here?
I mean, there's a lot to just say. I mean, I guess what comes to my head first was I don't think I'm really surprised that it happened. I don't know about you, Manny, but it's not surprising that this happened. Trump has basically been riling up his base for the longest time now. I mean, he's even before the election, trying to, defund the post office and try to do everything in his power to make it seem like this election was stolen from him before the election even started. His rhetoric, his tweets, everything has led up to this moment. It is not a surprise that this happened. This man has incited violence over and over again, and it does not surprise me that a bunch of people who are Second Amendment nuts, you know, would go to the Capitol building, while Joe Biden is, being certified, but in the Senate or in Congress, and feel like they need to save their quote unquote country. It just doesn't surprise me. None of this surprises me. I'll say what's been said throughout the whole week. I mean, to state the obvious, if it was a Black Lives Matter protest, nobody would have made it past the steps. Period. It'd have been the U.S. Tiananmen Square. That's exactly what it would have been. It would have just been a bloodbath. And I think if anybody denies that at this point, you're just ignorant or racist. There's just no other way around it. I think that uh, just a contradiction of how blacks are treated in society, or it's in the shiniest light it could possibly be in right now. And if you
Yeah.
can't see it, I'm not sure you ever will. So, I mean, we can get into specifics. We can talk more in depth about why it happened, who they were, what happened during it. But my overall thoughts are that it is absolutely insane to me that we just had an attempted coup. And it doesn't seem like any of my conservative friends give a shit. And it doesn't seem like anyone who's apolitical in my life really cares to care. And that's a very, very scary thing. And that's anecdotal. So I don't know how everyone else feels.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, everything that you said, couldn't have said it any better. What we saw on Wednesday. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised it hasn't happened. It took this long to happen.
Yeah.
Honestly, like this has been something that's been bubbling. It's been boiling. It's been simmering, and it just whatever expression or adjective, whatever you want to use. Chickens coming home to roost, whatever. It was something that was bound to happen, and honestly, I'm surprised it took this long to happen.
Yep.
It's just I'm sitting there Wednesday, and it's just in a way it's unbelievable. In a way, it isn't. Like in a way, like I never thought we'd see what we saw on Wednesday, and then it's like it's just crazy to me how, in a way, we even on Wednesday we were so desensitized to it. Like it wasn't a shock. Like I expected my jaw to be on the floor watching it happen, and it was like for a little bit, maybe for like the first hour,
Oh,
it
I was
was.
laughing. I was laughing at
Oh,
first.
I was laughing. Like I went through kind of like a gamut of emotions. Obviously, it
Yeah.
was shock, like, oh shit, this is actually happening. Then it was like, what the fuck? Like live tweeting it, play by play, breaking it down and shit. And then it's like laughing at these imbeciles in the Capitol, like just completely just making an ass out of themselves on worldwide television. And then just kind of like going through the anger and that upset feeling of like, how do we get to this? Like how the fuck did we just really get to this moment in time, this moment in our lifetime where it's just like we really just saw a fucking coup on worldwide television.
attempted.
Like
Attempted.
yeah, attempted.
Yeah.
Like literally. And it's not hyperbolic. Like we're not actually just being hyperbolic or like that's essentially what happened, right?
Yes.
Like
1000%.
literally armed people entered the capital of the United States and literally tried to, stop democracy from happening in some sort of fashion, right?
They
Like
put a noose at the
that's
side of the building. A
exactly
noose.
like there was a dude that came in there with freaking Molotov cocktails, people with weapons, like this shit was
Handcuffs.
real. Like this
Handcuffs.
exactly, right? Like you can't there's no other way to like explain it or put it in any other words, right? Like, and it's not even about being hyperbolic or being overly dramatic. Like this is what happened, right? And it's just so crazy to me that like we're at this level. But then in another sense, it's like it really isn't that crazy because this is America. Like I know it's popular to say that now, especially after Childish Gambino on the song, but it's like this is America. Like this is legit. This is who we are. And I'm so tired, right, of like, and you see this with like older white media and cable news and all
This
that,
is
like,
not
oh,
who we are as a
this is
country.
not who we are as a country. America's the shining city on a hill. All this bullshit platitudes that you hear in the history books and historians write. And it's like, no, this is who America is. Like, this is who America's always been.
But we knew that.
Like,
Like that's a thing that
well,
like
we know, no, but I
white
think a
middle
lot of
class
people,
bought into. I don't think we bought into that.
yeah, us and our generation probably hasn't bought into it, but I think a lot of people have bought into that, man. And I think a lot of people just like, no, this is who we are. This is genuinely who we are. Like, this
Yeah.
is America. Like, America likes to think that we're all these things: the city on a shining hill, the example of democracy, and all this other shit, right? And it's like, no, like as we were fighting World War II, we were also, you know, completely just discriminating black people in this country
Right.
and lynching them and
Right.
torturing them and making their lives a living hell. Literally, as we're fighting for democracy and freedom around the world, we don't have democracy and freedom in our own country. Like, this is America. Like, legitimately, this is America, right? Like, as we're preaching to other countries around the world about democracy and freedom, we're also installing puppet governments around the world, and also basically, you know, our form of totalitarianism and
If anyone knows how to
authoritarianism.
do a coup, it's us.
Right. It's like, but it's like we sit here and buy into and we subscribe to, and I'm not saying us, we, but just in general, like we buy into these platitudes and these bullshit sayings that we've all heard, right, for decades upon decades. And it's like, no, like, this has always been America. The only difference now is that now there's Twitter, now there's Snapchat, now there's Periscope and TikTok, and every phone has a camera, and there's a camera on every street light. Like, that's the difference, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is like I always hate when, like, oh, we're as divided as we ever have been. Really? Because we literally fought a civil war like 200 years ago. So, like, legit,
And
are
honestly,
we
and
divided?
everything like after segregation, the Jim Crow laws, all that it was just swept under the rug, man. It wasn't like this
Yeah.
stuff was field. Like people feel like I feel like a lot of times, and especially a lot of like my white friends, and this is I have to make it racial. I just have to, just for
Oh, you
simple
have
fact,
to.
to
Yeah.
show. I think a lot of my white friends, when we grew up and we learned these things in history, I don't think they're racist, but I don't think they understand that like these things still exist. So like they in our textbooks, it's like back in the 60s, black people couldn't do this, but now they can. And all my white friends like, yay, it's all
Yeah.
solved. Like
Yeah.
they think it's over. It's not over. It hasn't been over. All it has done was sweep everything under the rugs. And these people had children who became police officers, who became doctors, who had positions in the government, like conservatives who, were in the government at the time who weren't for, segregate or who weren't for desegregation. Well, now they go back to the drawing board and figure out ways how to, get power back by things like
Yeah.
gerrymandering and things of some sorts. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like I feel like, and this is where I'm hopeful, because I do feel like a lot of like my white modern friends are starting to realize that. So even though like if there's one thing I can take that's positive from this, I think it just shows our side even more. Like, yo, this like conservative, whatever this is, Trumpism, they have lost their fucking minds. And I think a lot of people are starting to stop both siding things. Like, this is not a
Yeah.
both sides issue. It's not. I understand that we as liberals and we as progressives can be a little annoying sometimes with certain things that we ask for, and a little be might be a little too purist and like
Right.
cancel culture and shit like that. But as frustrated as you are with those type of things, they do not compare to what the problems are to Trumpism. Doesn't even come close.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you, man. And it's and just drink my water. Sorry. Um, it's infuriating, right? Because it's like we still, like I said, we still want to buy into the platitudes and the things that we read in our history books. Like, what people forget is, like, the winners write the history books.
Yes.
America writes all the history books. So it's
Right.
going to be skewed in this like overly xenophobic, pro America, like America did everything great,
Capitalist.
and
Capitalist.
capitalist agenda written books, right? So, like, the victors write the history books. Like, had Germany won, they probably would have wrote some different shit.
Right.
you know,
Yeah, true.
had the
Facts.
British won, they definitely would have wrote some different shit, right? So,
Right.
like, winners write the history books, right? So winners get to tell the story. It is what it is, and it's
Right.
always going to be that way. So, like, I think the responsibility of everybody is to not necessarily not taking that information, but also do follow up and residual, researching on top of that, and understand that, like, this is just a segment of the truth, or this is just a perception of the truth, and not the actual truth, or not the full faceted story that we all need to hear, right? And it's just I just want like, so obviously we saw what happened and we dissected what happened. How did we get here? Like, how did we get here? Because I'm always one of those people that I want to look at the why and how we fix it or where we go from there. So I'm
We
like, well, how did we get there? And it can't just, and even before I let you go, I want to say this because again, the easy thing to do is just say, yep, Donald Trump, he's the worst. He did it. It's all Donald Trump. It all started with Donald Trump. It all ends with Donald Trump. No, I think Donald Trump was just the match that just
I agree.
lit the whole fucking thing on fire. Like this shit has been bubbling and has been simmering long before Donald Trump ever tweeted his first birtherism tweet. Like this thing has been simmering, and I think it started. I think it started with. I'll even go back to the '80s with
Reagan.
fuck that. It started with Nixon and the war on the war on crime and tough on, no, not the war on crime, the war on drugs and the tough on crime shit. You know, Atwater and Bush and Reagan in the '80s. Like the Republicans have been dog whistling for a long time. The Republicans have played this game of making you afraid of the non-white man, right?
Right.
They've pushed that agenda, they flooded that agenda for so long, for so long, for so long, in sophisticated ways, right? Like obviously the way Bush and Reagan did it was it's totally different than when Trump is like literally saying the things that they don't want you to say out loud, right? Like he's just literally just saying everything that you don't want you to say out loud. That's why they don't like him secretly, is because he literally just exposes all the thoughts that they
Right.
secretly have. Like he just says it
And
out
that's why
loud.
the base likes him, because they finally, it's like
Right,
finally
because
someone's
finally
saying what we're
somebody says
thinking.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Trump is just the gasoline that lit the fuse. You know what I mean?
I agree.
He's the match that lit everything on fire, right?
I actually think that I'll take it a step further. I think the match that lit the fuse was us electing a black president. I really do.
I think it's all part of the process, right? Like I think it started with
That's what
Nixon.
set it off. I agree
Yeah,
with you.
that
I agree with you,
that
but I think if, let's just say, that year we elected, I don't know who else was running that, John Edwards. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't think we're here. I don't think we're here right now. Now the resentment's still here. We still have the same
You
people living
you
in the
know why I
country.
disagree with you? You know
Okay.
why I disagree with you? Because let's say we do it like John Edwards. Let's say Obama's a footnote in history.
Yeah.
He never does anything after that keynote speech in '04.
Mhm.
And it's John Edwards or Hillary Clinton or whoever, right?
Well, Hillary, I think this nation's
Hillary
racist
would
as
have
well.
led
So
the same thing. I get what
yeah,
you're saying.
yeah,
The only thing I disagree with is I think we were bound to head there because I think this more than anything else is a repudiation on neoliberalism and neoliberal politics
agreed.
permeated this country for 40 years.
I agree.
This idea that this kind of centrist framework is the best route to go. That's why I
Thanks, Bill
think we
Clinton.
still get here. We may not get here in 2020. We may get here in 2028.
No, I agree. I agree
But we
with that.
still get here. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
we're saying the same thing.
Obama just accelerated that.
Yes, we're saying the same thing.
Right.
We're absolutely saying the same thing. I do agree that we would eventually got here, and I think a lot of it has to do with like neoliberal policies. But I think that electing a black man, that was
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
now you can dog whistle anything, which is what the Republican Party basically did, starting with the birther movement. Obama's a Muslim from Kenya. Where's this guy's like just
Right.
anything and everything that you can think of. And then on top of it, it's coming from a news source in Fox News, which just so happened to be the most trusted news source for conservatives. So now
Right.
they're hearing it from a news source that they think is credible. They turn on
Mhm.
AM radio, and Rush Limbaugh, who's one of the most trusted news sources in conservative media, is saying this type of things. So now all the dog whistles aren't honestly really dog whistles anymore. It's just straight up racism. It's just
No,
straight
it's a
up
bullhorn now. It's
yeah,
not even.
it's a
not even.
bullhorn, and
Yeah.
let's be honest, most of the Republican base is taking this in, right? So now 2012 comes, you have Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney's just a button-down politician who's not saying the things that the base wants. He's just not. So I don't think that's why they didn't resonate with Romney. What happened with Trump is Trump finally says what they want to hear. Most
Yeah.
most of these Mexico's not sending the best. They are rapists, they are murderers. Some I assume are good people.
Right.
People resonate with that. People resonate with a lot of other different things. On top of the fact, and you are correct about this, neoliberal policies, and how do you fix those things? Well, populism. He had a populist message. So
Right.
it was just kind of like the perfect storm.
Perfect storm. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also don't think we can just dismiss the fact that a lot of it had to do with we elected a black president, and for years with
Absolutely.
Reagan and Bush's, like Republicans have been dog whistling to their base, and then it just
Absolutely.
exploded in their face.
And I want to speak on that, right? Because I hold Republicans, you know, people say I'm too easy on Trump. No, I can't stand Trump. Trump is a fucking piece of shit, and this week all but solidified it. But
Yeah.
I'm someone that believes that, I'm never surprised at the devil. Like, we know who Donald Trump is. It's like when people show you who they really are, believe them. Like, Donald Trump, for the last 4 years, I would argue for 40 years, has shown people who he really is. This is
Yeah.
the same person that literally wanted to execute 5 teenagers because he thought they were rapists in Central Park. Like, this is the same person that he was in 1989, that he is now just turned up to like 20. Like,
Right.
this is the same person. This is who he is. Like, why
Right.
are we surprised now that in the in ending days, in the declining days of his 4-year presidency, we're still expecting something different. We're still expecting different behavior. Like, he is who he is. But I don't blame Trump, because again, Trump is just a vessel where all this shit flows through. I blame the Republican Party for the dog whistling, but
Yes.
I also blame the Republicans that knew better, but didn't give a shit because they wanted to score political points. They wanted to
Lindsey
own
Graham
the
and Ted
libs.
Cruz.
They wanted to own the libs, or
Yep.
because they wanted to gain in their own political aspirations, and decided to get in bed with Trump. Right? They
Yep.
decided they didn't care about Donald Trump. Wasn't too extreme for them when he was dog whistling on birtherism, and when he
Right.
was tweeting racist bullshit after racist bullshit, as when he was just a private citizen, and then as a candidate. They didn't care. They didn't care, right? They got in bed with him because they knew it was what was most beneficial for them, and they knew the base loved it, ate it up, right? Fired them up, and they went right along with it. And now all of a sudden you're appalled. Now it's a cross too much to bear. Fuck that. You knew what the fuck you got into. You just couldn't control him. You know what he is? He's those mobsters in Dark Knight that got in business with Joker, and now all of a sudden they're just surprised that the Joker
Right.
is just this anarchist. Like, that's who he is,
Right.
and he's
But
always been that.
but honestly, there's not a lot of people who were like, Ted Cruz is still with him. Josh Hawley, like Lindsey Graham is one of them who like immediately kind of withdrew everything.
Yeah, they broke, but
Yeah.
but how long? Because they had to. It's like, they know they have enough. I don't even want to say it's wherewithal. They have enough savvy, for lack of a better word, to understand that, like, at that moment you almost had to break with them, right? Like, you almost had to, like, say, you know what, geez, like, I can't support this shit, right?
Right.
Like, they had enough smarts to do that. Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, they just showed who they really are, because they are aspirationalists. They want to be president, and they want to take the mantle of
It's all about 2024.
Matt. Yeah, right. They're already lining it up. They're already putting
Yeah.
all this stop the vote, or stop the vote, and calling the election a fraud. All of this is just setting it up for a framework for 2024, and that's all they're doing. Josh Hawley has aspirations for 2024. Ted Cruz has aspirations. Matt Getz has aspirations for 2024. Like, all these people are just lining themselves up because they want to take that mantle of
Mhm.
MAGA and take it forward,
Even
right?
Dan Crenshaw. You see Dan Crenshaw's video
He's a
he did.
fucking tool. He's a fucking tool. He's a perfect example of, like, just because you wear a fucking military uniform does not make you qualified to run for public office.
Agreed.
Like, he's just an idiot.
He's
An
the
idiot.
worst. He's one of the worst. He's top 10. Top 10 for me.
Right.
Top
So
10 worst
yeah.
politicians in the United States.
Oh god, dude. What makes it worse is that literally is a vet, and it's just, yeah. But it's so that's who I blame. That's who I hold the most responsible for this, right? It's like the Republican Party for years had no problems. We called it dog whistling. I say it's a bullhorn now, like bullhorning these racist, ideologies, and this idea that the white, this white man, you know, this white man pity party, that we're losing our grip on our hold on America, or whatever the fuck they want to call it. They perpetuated this myth and this saga for so long, that you've inflamed and gaslit people to the point where they feel like this shit is like they're
Yeah.
playing with people's lives.
Yeah. People literally think they're losing the country right now.
And
Like,
the other thing you cannot ignore, and I go back to this, right? There's no coincidence that all this is bubbling and we have a global pandemic. When you tell people, when you lock people in their houses for 8, 9, 10 months, and then, oh, by the way, you don't pay them.
right.
People are losing their businesses,
Right.
are on unemployment, everything that they've ever known and loved. They just suddenly, in a span of a few weeks, everything, their whole world changes. It's not a shock that this is all happening. So while we call while we call Trump the match that lit the fire, it might be COVID the fucking match that lit the fire, right? Like that's what I believe. I think without COVID, I don't think this happens. In the same breath that
I
I
don't
think
agree
that
with that.
without COVID, I don't think that the protests in the summer and George Floyd don't have nearly the same impact.
I
I
agree
think
with
people
that.
are home. I think people are fed up. I think people are angry. This just comes on the heels of what? A debate over the last couple weeks about what $600 stimulus checks. There's no coincidence that this happened literally a couple weeks really after that, and just people are just fed up. I think this country is a ticking time bomb right now for a lot of different reasons. Of course, I'm not taking the blame off of Donald Trump. He has literally stirred the pot like no other person could stir the pot. Absolutely, I'm not taking the blame off him. I'm not taking the blame out of the Republicans. I'm also not taking the blame out of the Democrats. I know you get on me for being hard on the Democrats. I think the Democrats have blood on their hands in other ways,
No,
not necessarily this, in
right.
other ways.
No, I agree with
Like
you on
I
that. I think you should be harder than the Democrats. I just think we have to be very careful when we criticize the Democrats to make sure we differentiate like between Democrats and Republicans and their role as to why things are going down. To me, there is one party in this country that is substantially worse than the other. And I think,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And I
and
don't and I don't disagree with that. My
yeah,
issue is that I know what I'm getting with the Republicans. With the Democrats, you're supposed to be on my side.
right.
And it almost feels
You're
like
not
Kyle Kalinske calls them. They're Republican light. They're diet Republicans. It's
right.
like they're the nicer Republicans. They're the ones that are gonna put BLM blocks on their videos, and they're gonna put a little BLM banner as they continue to screw over people of color in their own kind of
Right, right,
ways.
right.
You
They
know what I mean?
should
So
be
that's
our
that's what I
opponents.
call exactly.
They should be our opponents.
Exactly. Right.
I agree.
And it's like that's what I see. And it's like, no, you are just as culpable in this as the Republicans. Yes, the Republicans are still tier one pieces of shit, but the Democrats are the Democrats are also feeding into that. And that's
Yeah.
what I think and I always strive to remind people of that. It's like, no, you've contributed to this just as much as the Republicans. You know what I mean? And my anger is that you know better. You're doing this and you should know better, as opposed to Republicans who I never
You don't
ever
think you
can
know better
give.
though? You don't think Ted Cruz knows what he's doing right now? You don't think he
You
knows
know,
any
he
better?
no, I know he knows what he's doing.
I mean, like,
But again, I don't respect Ted Cruz is a fucking chameleon. Like literally the fact that he's still willing to die and defend this fucking guy who literally talks shit about his family, talks shit about his wife. Like, come on, dude.
said his
Like,
father was part of the JFK
right?
assassination.
Like, so this dude is not anybody that should be trusted, right? Like,
Right.
this is not a guy that you go for
So,
as like, yeah, Ted
but
Cruz
then
is
how
going to
do
be the voice of reason.
but then how do millions upon millions of Americans support this man? Like he's gonna be a front runner for 2024. You know that.
I
Is it
I
just
don't
because
know, man.
is
I
it
have
just because
no.
he
I
holds up the
have.
Bible? Is that
I
is that
have.
what it is? He
Yeah.
just holds up the
I
Bible? Is
think.
that all you
I
have to do?
think. I think that's what it is. I think. Look, people vote for different reasons, right?
Yeah.
And the other aspect that I think you have to remember about this, right, is that the Republicans, for those that want to give credit to the Republicans, that, oh, this was the breaking point for a lot of Republicans. Cabinet members resigned, and this, that, and the other, and blah 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 blah. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy. They got their tax cut. They got their judges. They got their, they got their policies to deregulate different government entities. So you guys won.
Yeah. For the
Like
past 4 years, absolutely.
you've won,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, that's great. Yeah, now Trump, you have no need for him, or you feel like you have no need for him. So now it's easy to break. I don't care. When you should have broke from Trump was in Charlottesville. When you should have broke from Trump was, during the Muslim ban. That's when you should have broke from Trump. So I don't give you credit now,
Right.
right? You don't get credit for me now.
Right.
Like Colin Powell was on
Fuck
one of
Colin
the Sunday
Powell.
morning,
He's
oh,
not a
this
part of the
is the day.
Republican Party
Yeah, I'm
anymore.
not a part of the Republican Party. Why didn't you say that shit when you were killing millions of
Right.
fucking Iraqis on false
Right.
pretenses?
And
Why
everyone who
why
comes
wasn't
out
that the breaking point?
and everybody who comes out after Trump is actually people who just are at the end of their term limits and retiring.
Right. So it's like, come on. And plus, all these people that are resigning, Betsy DeVos still has her billions, so she's going to go, speak and still make money and still have her wackadoo views on schooling and education in this country. So she's not going to be hurt anything by it.
Right.
Maybe some some potential business clients may not want to do business with her down the line because she was involved in this or whatever. Like, ooh, cry me a fucking river. She's still going to go home to a bed full of money with some wackadoo ideas. So she'll still
Right.
be fine. You know what I mean? And all these other people that like some of these other cabinet people and all these other motherfuckers that like ditch Trump. They're thinking about their next political job. These are all grifters at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So they're just trying to think. They're just trying to save face for the next Republican that comes in the office, and they're just going to play. Oh well, see, I had enough nobility to know better and to diss Trump and to dissociate myself from that.
It's just
Fuck
so
out of here.
it's just so disheartening that it's gonna fool so many people. Like, you know what I mean? That's
You
the
know,
disheartening part. But actually, I don't know. Like, where does the Republican Party go for here? You know, Trump loses, right? 2020. Let's just say
but
he
the
doesn't.
base is still there. A
But
lot of
but
the
but Trump
base is still
Trump's
there.
base is still. But do Republicans now have to embrace Trumpism and turn into a party of Trump?
Yes. Yes, I don't think you can go back to Bush.
So
I
then,
don't think that
how many moderate Republicans stay with that?
they're going to stay because they're going to choose party over politics. They're going to choose party
Even
and
after a failed,
politics.
even after a
Yes.
failed coup, even after
Yes.
what, even after
See,
Trump eliciting all this.
the thing you're missing, Josh, and I'm not saying you're missing it in like a negative way.
Yeah.
The thing that you're not seeing is that things will calm down after this for a while.
Yeah.
I shouldn't even say that. Knocking on wood. It's there's still there's still lots of time for some dumb shit to happen, right? But for the most part, let's just say things calm down after a while. Trump goes away. Look, and that's another thing. I don't think they should impeach him. Like, what's the point? First of all, he's out of office in what, 10 days, 10, 9 days, something like that,
I
11
think you
days,
have
something
to
like
set a
that.
precedent, dude.
But
I
here's the thing.
disagree.
Okay, now it's just okay. So okay, you draft impeachment papers tomorrow. He's not going to get impeached by the 20th. It's just not going to happen from a logistical standpoint. It takes time for these things to happen. And plus,
You need
Mitch
trials, right?
McConnell,
You
right,
need to.
trials and all that. And plus, Mitch McConnell is going to be still the Senate Majority Leader still for a couple of weeks. It's still like a transitional period, right? So even then, what are you really accomplishing? Okay, yes, you impeach him in name only. Yay, we impeached him. We drew the articles. Nothing's going to happen. He's going to be out of office already. And then he's going to be a private citizen again. And then that whole quagmire opens up. Hell, he still even might even pardon himself at this point. So I just, to me, and plus, the other thing about this too, if you go down this road of impeaching him or doing the 25th, that only emboldens his base. That only fires up those fucking
Well, fuck
wackadoos.
them, bro. Like, honestly, like
No, but it's easy to say.
we're not supposed to arrest a dude who
No,
elicited a
no, 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 no.
coup.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. All
Okay.
I am saying is that now you're giving these motherfuckers even more ammunition to do some stupider shit.
But they're gonna
Because
find
we've already,
ammunition. They're gonna find ammunition no matter what, man.
I get it. I
That's
get
my
it.
point. Like they're gonna
I
like
get it.
racists are gonna find ways to be racist. Like sexists are
Yeah.
gonna find ways
Yeah.
to be sexist, and Trumpists are gonna find ways to defend Trump. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but at the end of the day, this man needs to be held accountable for his actions. We need to set a precedent in this country saying this shit cannot fucking happen again.
I agree
Period.
with you. I agree
Period.
with you. And I don't want anybody to take it as I'm not saying that I don't agree with you.
Right.
My point is, had he had a year left, had this happened in 2019, I would say absolute. Like what he got impeached for compared to what this is,
Right.
it's like 10 times. Like this is what the fuck he should have got impeached for. Let's be real. I mean, and plus, we both said it. Ukraine was like the 20th worst thing he's done.
Right. Which he was
Like
guilty
legit.
of. Which he was guilty of, by the
Yes,
way.
by the way,
yes,
yes.
you have
But
annulments,
like
you have other
literally, like
things. Yeah.
right, right. So like that's like the 20th worst thing he's done. Right.
Right.
So what I'm saying is like, look, let's just get this dude out of Washington, get him out, and then let the Southern District of New York, let Biden and his federal Justice Department, do what they're gonna do with him, whatever. To me, the best thing right now is to not give these motherfuckers any more ammunition right now in this 10-day period. And then after that, let him go away, let him think he's doing, because he's still going to be in trouble when he becomes, unless he pardons himself from federal crimes, and he's still going to be in trouble for all the other shady business shit that he's done. Obviously the Southern District of New York has pending investigations on him. So he's still going to have to deal with a shitload of things after he's out of office. So just to me, just don't even waste your time, because again, from a logistical standpoint, what are you hoping to accomplish? Let's say you impeach him. What do you?
Precedent. It's just precedent for me. For me, that's what I think.
I
It's
get it.
important. I think it's important, man. I mean, this guy literally in cited a coup.
I get it. I understand. And even with that, Josh Hawley
Yeah.
still voted to not certify the election results.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz, 6 other Republicans still voted, even when their lives were fucking in danger, when they were boarding the fucking Capitol. These 6 people still said, yeah, you know what? I think Joe Biden's not really the president. Even after all of that. Come on, like what precedent are you setting? Like this, to me, we're so far gone. We're so far gone that I don't even think you could set precedent. Like I just don't think that you can even like. And I'm usually a guy that says, yeah, hold people accountable. And again, had he had 2 years in office, I'd be singing a different tune. Yeah, impeach his ass, drag his ass to jail, kick his ass out of office. Absolutely. People forget impeachment is a political proceeding. It's not a criminal proceeding.
Right.
You know what I mean? So from a political standpoint, you gain nothing because again, from a logistics standpoint, he's going to be out of office in what, 10 days? So
No, yeah, I
it
get
does.
it.
It's not even. You're not even gonna have enough time to even have a trial, to even like get it through the House and pass it, and then get it to the Senate. Like you're not even gonna have the time from a logistical standpoint to
What
even
about
accomplish it.
invoking the 25th Amendment?
Yeah, but to me, if you would have done that, you would have done it Thursday night.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now we're so far gone. Like, what are you gonna do? Invoke
What's
the
the
25th
point?
Amendment? Yeah. What's the point? Like again, like what's the point? He's out of office in 10 days. And then he's gonna feel the wrath of whatever it is he's gonna feel. And even from a federal perspective, I think he's probably gonna pardon himself. I would not put it past him to pardon himself on the last day. Like Trump, Biden becomes president at 12. Because for those who don't know, Biden doesn't officially become president until 12 noon, January 20th.
Right.
So like at 11:58, he'll pardon himself. I have full expectation that he'll pardon himself on like 11:50, and he'll be free of federal crimes. That still doesn't affect all the other shit that he has to go to answer
It's
for.
fucking crazy they can do that. The president can pardon himself. That's insane.
Yeah, don't even get me started, man. But like to me, it's just like, what is the point? You know what I mean? What is the point? That's what I am saying. Like, what is the point? To me, you're almost it's almost like theatrics at this point. If you're the 25th Amendment, the 25th Amendment or the whole impeachment proceeding, it's like, what's the point? He's gonna be out of office in 2 weeks, and then you're gonna be free to persecute this motherfucker, however which way you seem fit, if he doesn't pardon himself after he's out of office. So to me, just focus your efforts on that than 2 weeks bogging yourself down on political hand wringing and arm twisting and all that. And even with that, even if let's say they impeached him, I still think the Senate doesn't impeach him. I still believe that.
Man, it wouldn't surprise me. I can't lie. It wouldn't surprise.
Gun to your head right now, and I know that's a poor phrase in the time that we live in right now, but gun to your head right now, do you still think the Senate will impeach him? Will convict him, I should say.
So you have what's the Senate right now? It's like 53.
This is before Ossoff and
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't even know. I know
Who
they have the
you got Romney. Romney would. You got
Romney. I don't think Lindsey Graham would.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Gun in my head, I'd say no, just because I think Republicans are very tight knit, and I think they stay on message, they stay on brand.
On
They stay
brand,
in
man.
the-
And plus the other thing and this is where we first started with the conversation is
yeah,
because you said like how does the Republican go from here? Like I think they have the problem with the Republican Party is the majority of the establishment Republicans are center right? For the most part, give or take. But the base is far right.
yeah.
So in order to win, they gotta you gotta go far right. So the era of the normie Republicans, the Bush Republicans, the country club Republicans, that shit is over.
And you still
And
think
even
those
and
you still
even
think
if
those Bush Republicans vote for the far right candidate going forward?
yes, because at the end of the day, they still win. They still get their judges. They still get their tax cuts. They're not stupid. Like these never Trumpers, what is it? Like the Lincoln Project, that was like a group of like 50 people. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like Republicans still like look at the exit polls. All the work, all the billions of dollars these dudes grifted off the Democratic Party, and what happened? Republicans, 85% of Republicans still voted for Trump. Like, it was a I think it was 90. Yeah, I think it was 90.
Yeah,
Look it up.
Republican. I'm looking up Republican approval rating for Trump. It's historic. I know that he's like the most popular fucking Republican.
Exactly. I think he's approaching like Reagan numbers.
That's absurd.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm saying. Like you could sit there and say, like we could both be normie Republicans, right? And we could be like, oh my god, what he does is appalls me, but he's also going to give me a conservative judge.
Do you
Oh,
think he
yeah.
would even look too deep into that though? Like he's gonna get me a
Yes.
conservative judge?
This is why I say Republicans are better at
Oh,
politics
I knew that.
than the
One
leftists
one thousand
because
percent. Yes. Yeah.
they understand the levers of power. They understand how power fucking works. Like we get caught up in philosophical arguments. These motherfuckers know what power is. They're like, yeah, you can have your philosophical, you know, debates. This motherfucker is going to put a judge in. I can't stand this motherfucker, but he's going to put a conservative judge and swing the Supreme Court for the next 30 years. They understand that shit. They understand that, like you think Lindsey Graham secretly likes Trump? No, he doesn't. But he understands Trump got his donors a tax cut.
So, um, Donald Trump job approval by party identification. Republicans, the last poll by Gallup had him at 87%.
Think about that.
Before that, 90, 95, 94, 94.
Think about that. Think that answers your question
It's
right
fucking
there.
wild, man.
You know what I mean? It's like, and I'm not even trying to be overly cynical, bro. It's like you gotta understand how this shit works, bro.
Yeah.
Like these dudes, they work off of what's popular and what's politically expedient. They understand that the base still loves this shit. They understand it. And to me, what I'm most afraid of is I'm afraid of the next Trump. Because the next Trump is
Same.
gonna be more sophisticated, he's gonna be smarter, he's gonna be even more tech savvy. You know what I mean? He's just gonna be better.
He's gonna be Tucker Carlson.
Yeah. Think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
God forbid, right? But I mean, like, this is what people don't like. I'm not worried about the current Trump. I'm worried about the future Trump, who takes
Yeah.
that mantle of MAGA and goes beyond, right? That's what I'm worried about. I think the Republican Party has. I say soul searching, but they really don't because they know what they're gonna do. They're gonna wait. They're gonna wait till this shit simmers down,
Right.
and they'll wait. They'll put in Biden in the first couple weeks. They'll play nice for the most part. They'll give them a chance for the most. They'll play nice.
I don't think they'll play
You
nice,
know,
to be honest with you. I think day
no, they
one
won't
they're
play
talking.
nice. They won't play nice in that regard. I mean, there's like they'll try to temper the animosity between the parties and stuff like that for a little bit of time. I give it a month or so, but by Easter, it's going to be full guns blazing again, and it's going to be like again setting up 2024 and the talking points and the narratives and all that. You know what I mean? So I just think you have to understand how this shit works, man. And for folks that are doubting me, I'm willing to bet you. Watch. This shit will calm down. This shit, and plus, and I'm dying to get your thoughts on the whole ban on social media thing for him because I think we're going to disagree on where we stand
I
on
think
this.
we are too. Yeah.
I think that you know I just think you have to understand where this shit is and understand how this political game. And I'm not saying I'm no expert. I mean, I'm just repeating
No,
what
no, I
I've
get it,
read and
dude. I
listened.
mean,
I just think you have to understand, man. I
I
think you
get it.
got to get it.
And the thing is also like, I can't wrap my head why around how a moderate, not racist, truly conservative person still goes to a voting booth and votes for Donald Trump in 2020. Like, why would that change in 2024? Um, and
75, 76 million people were willing to vote for Donald Trump.
it's
You
fucking
mean to
crazy.
tell me that if Josh Hawley comes out in
They're
2024
gonna say no
with
to
the
him, right?
same the
Yeah.
same talking points, he's not going to get support?
No, you're right.
I just don't think that in the world we live in now, maybe in 20 years it's something different, who knows. But in the world we live now, I don't think a guy like Mitt Romney can win. He's not going to win.
But that shows you just how bad the Democratic Party is, too, right? I mean, how bad of
Yes,
a party do you
exactly.
have to be where you cannot pull people over from that side?
We